wanted to give a discourse and was using an alphabet board, he would use the alphabet board that would be easy for him. He would go with his fingers all over the letters there, and the interpreter would read out the whole discourse. Same thing with the message. When he was using the board, anything new has to be given out, he used the board. There's no doubt about it. But there were stock phrases, as Mani just now pointed out to you all, where there was no need to use the board at all. But when he dropped the use of the board, then of course when he had to give his message or any discourse, he had to use his fingers and form the words and sentences through different signs, you see. But when he used the board, he used it to give discourses, dissertations, messages, or to dictate a cable message, or the points for the letters. He used the board. Say, when he dropped the use of the board, he gave it out through his hand gestures, all the sentences, all the words. It was a very laborious process. With great patience he did it.
Could you show us the pace that he would do it at?
For example,
Impossible to imitate. Impossible, I tell you. Impossible to imitate.
for example, when he was giving the discourse on obedience,
Yes.
and different types of obedience, the obedience of the slave,
Yeah.
and the obedience of the
Yes,
soldier.
he would go with.
No, but after when we saw him, he wasn't using the board.
Yeah.
He was
Using his gestures, yes, that he would go through the word, go through all these things, you see. All the letters he would have to go through. But then once obedience would be there, you see, the reference to context would help the interpreter. And naturally, he wouldn't have to spell out the word obedience all the time. Now we knew that he is going to give the discourse on obedience, you see. So the obedience would be just this much, O. Or if there are two O's, you see, or the object in obeying, you see, so he would spell out the word object. If we were to mix up the words object and obedience, then he would again correct us. That's how it would be. But usually he would just say obedience, you see, or this he would say. Just signs he would use. Devotion, D-E-V, he would use like that for devotion. Love, he would use L-O-V, or just use the word L, and that's all. Or he would do like this for love. It all depended. Impossible to imitate. Impossible. And to imitate would be, I think, even if we were to follow him through while he is gesturing, and we would want to imitate on the spur of the moment while he is gesturing, even that would be impossible. Because his flow, his elegance was such great. It was incomparable, I should say. Impossible to imitate. So beautiful. Yeah. The flow was so beautiful, incomparable. It's impossible. Our hands are too short for it. The fingers are deformed. Our face, we are so ugly, you see, with our expressions. We find ourselves physically incapable of going through the whole process. We find ourselves as if our fingers are cut, you see, while we now even think of these things. But he would go through the whole process, letter by letter, to form the word by word, to form the sentences. But once the flow starts, then he would just use the first two alphabets of the words. And then it goes on. This much I can carry you through. I noticed that, but I completely forgot about it. I wanted to tell you, it's good that you brought the subject, you see. What Baba would do is just, suppose if Baba wanted someone to bow down to some person there whom he wanted us to do, and he sends through proxy, you see, that particular gesture. So he won't do that. All he would do is just this. Two things he would do. You want to come on, I'll imitate it. So first of all, the thing is that it would be done like this. So you are standing. So Baba would say that, he would say this. Suppose if this gift packet is to be given, you see. So you'd say that, give this. But before you give this, means it will be all there. B, U, T. But before you give this and all that, what you do is bow down to him. So you do this, you see. Like that you do it. Or sometimes you'd say, you do this.
Like
Either of the two.
Either of them.
Depending upon how you would want
And
it.
yeah.
And invariably the words that we had to express it was a stock phrase. Whenever this is to be given, it says, please accept this gift of God and oblige. Yeah. And then you bow down, you give it to him. Whether it be a gift of money, whether it be a gift of money or grain or cloth or anything, or sweets, it had to be given with these words. Please accept this gift of God and oblige him. And before doing that, we had to bow down. It was imperative that we had to bow down. If he is not there and we are doing it on his behalf, he would first bow down to us and send us there. Same thing with conveying a message to the saint, mind you, or the perfect master, or anywhere. He would bow down and send us there. We bow down there and convey it. This way, the way it is, I can read it now. Suppose if Baba be a BA, it's true. But now suppose if Arti is the one who is interpreting, so Arti has to read it upside down, you see. You see, then he speaks out, that is Baba. Now Baba says that I am G-O-D, God. So the way you read it is upside down. But then the interpreter is so trained with his reading that he need not be nearby. He can be at a distance from where Rich is sitting and Baba is using the board on the seat there. And he can read it out, you see, the upside down letters there. And then he wouldn't go around like that. Now suppose consciousness. So he need not go on saying that C-O-N-S-C-I-O-U-S. No. In the flow of conversation with reference to context, he would just simply say, means this is C-O-N, consciousness is infinite. Enough. So the interpreter says infinite. It is infinite. Consciousness is infinite.
It used to be very powerful how you would say, you preface it quite often with Baba says.
Yes, the interpreter has to say that. Not I, anybody would say that Baba says. And then no sooner Baba starts giving out sentences, you see, and a paragraph says. Then again the interpreter would say, Baba says this now. And
That's
so,
right.
Yeah. And for figures, 12 years, 21 years, 12 years, 34 years. You just point out. All is a zero, let's say. It's like that.
You must have made mistakes when you were like just taking the short form, like say like
No, the thing is,
short print.
usually
Or
there won't be
could you
many.
misinterpret?
Yes, occasionally, rarely. Then he would correct. He would say that, you see, and says, no, read this now, like that. He'll point out. It's not consciousness; it's confusion. You see, like that, confusion, not consciousness. It's like that. Confusion is great. We might be thinking, you see, that consciousness is infinite. We say that, but he would say it's not consciousness. It's confusion. You see, infinite confusion. It's like so. We might sometimes, very rarely, but then he would check. He would again correct it. Even though if it is being spoken out in the public, he would check. He says, no, it's not that. And even while using the board, you see, there's something like God is great, you see. So he need not say, so he would say like this. Yeah, it's like that. So if the interpreter simply says God, then he understands vast, is infinite, is great, depending upon the flow of conversation. Whether he wants to use the word infinite or great or vast, like that. So everything is mixed up in this. It's in the board. His gestures would be there, citing of sentences would be there, and so forth. He wouldn't adhere to any strict principle. And that's why I say that it's impossible to imitate him. Impossible.
But I imagine one of the things that would have happened is that you get a closer inner link with the way he thinks.
Yes.
And with practice, you know a lot of what he's going to say. Not
with practice, we know what, with practice and the initial words.
yes, the key,
Initial letters.
key letters.
Yes, the key letters. Yes, that's true, that's a fact. But it's not that he imparts such thoughts, you see, that we say, no, it's all humbug. People think like that, you see, that we are in tune with his thoughts. Impossible to be in tune with the thought of the infinite?
No,
How is it possible?
I didn't mean that.
No,
I meant with
not
practice.
you, but
No.
there were other people who asked me these questions, and I said, to be really frank and truthful, nothing of the sort happened, nothing. It's just through sheer one-pointed attention
Yes.
and his grace and his patience that it continued like that.
And the repetition
Yes,
of the
repetition. And the repetition of the same theme,
yes.
and the same sentences would
Yes,
come out and
yes.
all that. That made it easy.
Yes.
That made it easy. There's no doubt about it. That's why I say that he need not go through the whole spelling of the whole word, or he need not go and tell the whole sentence. It would be there and the sentence would be completed.
But people these days seem to, or some people seem to wonder why was he silent, but his actual communication was greater by being silent
Yeah.
than by
And
speaking.
it is said by Param Roche, who was very close, the one who has typed out many of his conversations and dissertations and messages and all that. He has typed out, he was the steno over here. He says, how I wish Baba had not kept silent. Had he spoken, there would have been fewer words for me to type out. Because with his silence, he has given volumes.
Yes.
Now go.